Welcome to Real Estate Dads, the Real Estate Dads podcast that interviews fathers who are within the real estate industry. Today, we have our special guest, Adam Carswell, who helps people within the real estate industry and actually many industries raise capital for their businesses. And Adam is a father too, and I'm so glad to have him on the show.
Looking forward to it, guys. Let's go.
Tell us about Mexico.
Well, Mexico is beautiful as always, right? I guess maybe if you live here, you might be someone who gets tired every now and then, but I could see the Caribbean Sea right now, and it's pretty epic as usual.
So where are you?
I'm in Cancun.
Okay.
Yeah. We're here for Capital Collective, Mastermind of Paradise. So
great.
Been to Cancun a handful of times. Always forget how blue. I really do think it's some of the bluest water that this part of the world has to offer.
So how was your Father's Day?
My Father's Day was great, and just so I know, we are officially rocking on the show now, and we're just
we just started. We just jumped right in.
Yeah. All right, nice. That's like it's a Joe Rogan style. That's what I always tell people. I wish more shows did it this way. So awesome. Yeah, Father's Day was great. I got to take a nap, which, as you guys know, and I think Max, but I mean, Trevor's been at the game, I think, for a while, if I know correctly. But you and me, Max, with like the newborns and toddlers and stuff, a nap is just off the chain. So, and also that's another nice thing about being here in Mexico right now is, you can't really brag about it to your wife because it's only going to come back to get you. But the fact that I slept 9 hours straight last night was pretty nice. So yeah, fatherhood, different things you look forward.
And how many do you have now?
We have two. We've got two.
Okay, so and what are the ages?
Micah just hit the 20-month mark, which I feel like after 20 months is when you just start saying, okay, his birthday's in October, he's 2, he's 3 or whatever. So we're getting near the end of counting months for him. And then my daughter is 3 months old. So
wow. Okay, so you actually were a little closer than me. So because my son's 2.5 now, and then my daughter is just 2 months.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that you did. I mean, in my book, that's still 2 under 2. So congrats.
Thanks. And to you also. So,
yeah.
So, and just to conserve the time here, do you have any stories about your father to you and you to pass on to your kids?
Yeah. From my father to me, I think one of the biggest things that I learned from him was what I would call critical thinking. And it's something that's become just more and more obvious that it's important in life, with all the BS that's been thrown since we've joked about COVID before, guys. I don't know what rabbit holes we want to go down on this show, but from 2020 up until now, there's been a lot of awakenings. And I think you can very easily be someone who gets sucked into what's being fed to you if you don't have those grassroots of a strong father. So, I mean, my dad's someone, for example, even just when it comes to politics, he's always felt throughout his life like people go, he's African-American guy. He's going to vote Democrat. Like, this is kind of like, it just goes like hand in hand. And so like watching my dad, like, have conversations like that growing up where it was clear this dude is like an independent thinker and he's going to like make a decision based on like what he's finding objectively to be true. And I know my dad still does today. It's like, I just feel like that's been something that I do my best to set an example for with my kids and everyone around me, is to really always just analyze the situation for what it's worth and not just go with what really the system expects you to do.
Yeah. I would argue that not just COVID, but our phone devices, I call them our pocket propaganda devices.
Yeah,
whoever's on the other side of the device, because COVID, I think, really shined a light on it. But I think that, when we've used these things and seen kind of the stuff that you recognize as being projected from a megaphone is really eye-opening if you have the eyes to kind of see it for what it is. Just really shocking.
Critical thinking of this, that's like a lost skill that it's not taught in school and not a lot of parents teaching it. So that's a good one. That's a good one to be taught.
I wish there was like, and it's one of those things where I feel like it's so easy to say and it's so obvious to us, but it is one of those things that it is hard to figure out, okay, well, how do we teach the masses how to critically think?
What even is it?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what did your dad do for you? You say that.
I think for me, like he would always just have moments where he would just pull me or my siblings aside and kind of like talk us through like, hey, like, he would ask us, what do we think about things? And I guess we would have a healthy like conversation. It wouldn't be a debate, but just like he did a great job at extracting helping us get our real thoughts out there and then taking a look at, okay, why do you think this way? And then going from there, like there's another phrase that he would always say, or he still would always say, is like, I mean, manage your expectations. If you're not someone who has learned how to manage your expectations, you can just continuously set yourself up for unhappy days, right? So managing your expectations is like a really big thing that I know my dad is big on, and also is to like let nothing own you. And as someone who and Max, I think I probably talked to you about it a little bit, Trevor, and over just like getting to know each other, but like as someone who definitely likes to party and have a good time, there's certain things in this world that exist that like if you let it really own you, it can take control of you. And I feel like my dad always just kind of planting that in our heads. It's sort of as little as like, hey, regardless of like what you're gonna do with your life, like never let like one thing really control you. And if you notice it, have the discipline to like acknowledge that and take a break. And I guess some people probably do struggle with being able to like take breaks from certain things. But I just know like those are the things that come to mind for me when you ask me like, what did my dad teach me? What I want to pass on is like let nothing own you. Have intentional conversations with your kids that allow them to actually see and bring to light what are they thinking, how are they interpreting things, and maybe just figuring out an actual formula now. So you guys have helped me realize like how does one actually critically think? what is that actually look like? Because that would be good.
Those are two really good, points. Though I mean, I like that. Don't let anything own you. I resonate with that. I live in Vegas, and I moved here like 10, 12 years ago or something like that to party. I came here to party. So I got away from it, but I definitely was owned by it. So I think I didn't get that advice. So that's a good one. I like that.
I think for a lot of parents, there's just no advice. It's just kind of like, your parents are there, they're feeding you. That's kind of it. I think that's one of the things with, active parenting is when you say that, I mean, it's really, active engagement and taking a step to do that. But, for me, like my dad never not teach me to critically think, but I don't know if that was ever like an active thought, kind of just, parenting that was just done from, he was always there, but I don't know how much of an active step it was. Some of those things are things, life teaches us by giving us hard slaps, so it's, and I will also comment, I feel like in today's era, I feel like critical thinking is always important. I feel like right now it seems to be more than ever something that is very, very necessary. The marketability to marketers all over the world are finding that they can sway an opinion. And it's like now with critical thinking, it's really important. It's not like you can just go to a job, kind of work and come home and have everything be okay. Like now you have to do a lot more active cognating of information you're taking in. However the information is coming in.
It's a dramatically different world with so much more information surrounding us, and most of it is not true.
What was the joke? Right. Who thought that a device that had all the information and the access of the world would make everyone dumber?
Yeah, that's the best way to look at it.
I think it's a Bill Burr quote. Sorry, go ahead, Adam.
Oh, of course. Yeah. No, that's good. Bill Burr is awesome. We got to get him on the show. I think he's
if he owns real estate. I don't know if he's a real estate guy. It'd be great to have him on. He still have advice for the listeners.
Yeah, people like to say that. I mean, you'll notice this trend, and I feel like, I don't know, this is an observation I've made at the age of 33. So who am I? But in the heat of the moment, everyone always likes to say we've never seen anything like this before, and they've been saying that since the 1960s. I'm sure whatever was happening in the 60s, people are like, we've never seen anything like this before. Like television in the house, it's crazy. Like times are so crazy right now because we've never seen anything like this before. So like, I feel like that's just something also to always keep in mind when we can get so sucked into what's happening in 2024, and maybe that in certain scenarios is beneficial, but we got to remember, like, there's always going to be that feeling of like, oh my God, like we've never seen this before. And I just think it's important to keep that in mind.
You're right. 60s was a crazy time. Like people talk about the 60s and they still talk about it, like how that like 60s rolled around and like everything changed after that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And now AI is here and everything's changing again. All right. Like,
It's actually kind of exciting, isn't it?
the AI stuff I'm getting kind of pumped about low key, but it'll have its phase and then there'll be the next one, whatever, 20 years from now.
Whatever the new disruptor is.
Yeah.
So Adam, let's I'm trying to be efficient here on the time with you. So work career. So let's get a plug a little bit. So tell us about what you do so listeners can hear where your authority is in the market, what you've helped people do, and I'll let you jump into it.
Yeah. I actually forgot that I wrote this down I think it was back when we launched Raise Masters, which is mastermind for elite capital raisers. That's how I know you guys. When we launched Raise Masters in Slack, you kind of put like a little like profile tag on like who you are and what you do. And I wrote something along the lines of I help connect people so that they can exponentially grow their careers or something like that. I was looking at that the other day. I'm like, dang, I forgot I even wrote that in there, but it's pretty on point, right? So from like a abstract level, I would say that is what I do. More granular, I'm with raisingcapital.com. You can literally go to raisingcapital.com for more information. But basically, as Trevor and Max know, we have a mastermind of right now about 350 capital raisers doing deals all across the country and outside the U.S. For various asset classes too, mostly real estate, but we've got business acquisition, precious metals, ATM funds. Like we've probably worked with at least 30 to 40 different asset classes at this point. Oil and gas is a big one too. So we have that. And then within Raise Masters, we have you kind of call it like Hunter, our CEO, our founder's inner circle, which is known as Capital Collective. Both of you guys are familiar with Capital Collective. Honestly, at some point, I see you guys hanging out with. The reason we have to cut this one short is because I'm in Cancun with our Capital Collective members, aka Max and Trevor, eventually. So it's just our higher tier clients, people who have done bigger deals, and we always like to say, bigger. You can see me on the camera here if we're doing a video version. It's bigger results in a shorter amount of time. Bigger
just on a side note, when we have recordings, you're all the way out to here. So if you've got something over here that's embarrassing and tried out a camera, it'll be in the picture when we actually have.
Well, this is anyone that's listening has ever been to the Marriott all inclusive in Cancun. I got to be honest, Cancun to me is basically just an extension of the U.S. Like everyone, you at least know a few people that have been here. So that kind of like waters the hype down, in my opinion. But this is probably one of the nicest resorts I've ever been at. So if anyone ever comes to Cancun, I would actually highly endorse this one for a unique experience. Back to what I do though, that's it, is helping people raise more money from their deals. And I work with Hunter Thompson, who's a very well-known name in the industry of raising capital, has raised over 100 million, wrote a book on the topic, has a podcast that gets tons of downloads. And I do my own kind of variation of things that Hunter does on the side, podcasting. I'm a house music DJ and producer, which I'm trying to get Hunter out of retirement. I don't know if you guys know his story, but he DJ'd for a few years there in LA, and
really,
he has kind of shifted to a more sophisticated line of work. But
wow, he does not include that in the bio.
Yeah, no, he's low key about it, but I think it serves him well when people find out this way instead of actually in the bio. But yeah, that's a little bit about me, and I got into house music production and DJing a little bit later in my life too. It's been like the last 3 or 4 years I've really fallen in love with it. So I think that has served me well, because I think if I was maybe doing it my whole life or something, I wouldn't be as pumped up about it. But lately, I just actually got a record signed today. Do you guys know James Bohan by chance? He's a CPA.
Not.
I guarantee you know people who work with him. It's crazy because he's like so low key, but he has his own record label and he's in Raise Masters. So he just signed one of my tracks.
Great.
Yeah, it's coming out July 26th. Follow General Moses on Instagram.
General Moses. Well, this Real Estate Dads podcast took a turn with the hip hop.
We got our first.
I love it. Entrepreneurially and business wise. So is this a passion piece? Is this something that you're going, hey, I want to make a lot of money from this, and I want to bring it back to the dads and how much time you've got. So you've got your main gig. helping elite capital raisers exponentially grow their careers. That was the first thing you said.
Yeah.
And then you said, hey, but I'm also doing this house music for 3 years. That's not a short amount of time. That's more than a hobby. So, how much time do you have to devote to each of these things? And how does that be balancing with the kids?
100%. Yeah. I mean, the kids were actually a fire starter for going into house music, because I was telling my wife for a while, I'm like, hey, and first of all, I'm a huge fan of the music, which is kind of why I'm like, I know I want to do this one day. Um, and I told her, like, if we're gonna have kids, I really want to do. There's this training that I went through called the Tool Room Academy. I'm like, I know I want to do this before we have kids, because who knows what happens. Quite frankly, I feel like looking back on it, I could have totally done this while having kids, but it was like the thing that really pushed me to be like, hey, the time is now to like do this, because the last thing I want to do is be like 50 years old and be like, dang, like I never actually did something that I felt like I really wanted to do, which is like just learn how to make house music. Now my sweet spot in all of this is like, because of Raise Masters, because of Capital Collective, financially it's put me and my family in a great position where I can go ahead and pursue something like this, and it is like purely a hobby. And I've noticed from a lot of the other like DJs and producers that I've got to network with and got to know now, a lot of them are in a position in their lives and their careers where like they have to do this to make ends meet. And if not, like they're working like a part-time job, like, serving tables or whatever. And so that's been like the coolest sweet spot of all of this, is being able to grow and thrive in this group that I know you guys through with Hunter, and then also truly be able to make this like keep music like a hobby and a passion as it like slowly grows over time. Now, if there's a day where someone in Trevor's city, Vegas, would hit me up like, hey, General Moses, we need you to do a set for like 50 grand this weekend. Like, you down? Like, absolutely. I'm going to be banging sets, but like until then, it's literally like that. I couldn't ask for a better layout, especially not while doing all this and raising my two babies. Like I get to spend so much time with them, and I love it.
It's funny, man. A lot of times when at like Hunter, when he's talking about his org chart and how he hires people, he always says, he's like, if you're looking for work-life balance, you're in the wrong place. Don't come here, right? But what you just described to me is this really healthy work-life balance thing. You kind of sounds like you got going on there, man.
Yeah, yeah. We can talk about that job description thing, because that's actually a nice hack that we've used to bring on good people. Well, Hunter's all, and just to give a shout out to Hunter, I mean, he's always been really big on autonomy and just, hey, you hit your numbers, we do what we got to do, we're winning, do whatever you want, like it's your life. That's kind of always been his approach to things. I do think that like as we've scaled as a company now, when we have over 20 employees, like there's a certain level of rigidity. Is that the right word? Like there are certain things that are implemented now to hold everyone accountable to actually getting things done, as opposed to a couple of years ago, it was like, hey, like no one had time to track how anyone was doing, if that makes sense. All that being said, though, like I look at my life, and I would think you guys just being in an environment where you can do a lot of what you need to do purely on Zoom. It's awesome, because like we live in Toronto, Ontario now, with a few different places, but that's like our home base, and really probably we're going to raise the kids for like the next 4 or 5 years. And Ontario has this really cool thing called Early On, where it's kind of put on by by the province. And there's like 20 locations just in the city that we live in. And there's other cities that have, other variations of this, but you can go and take your kids for like multiple hours per day up until the age 6, like for free. And there's playgrounds and other kids and other parents and like all this like awesome, I guess you say like free, I guess the state's paying for it, right? But free stuff that you can access. And so I take my son to an Early On location for like an hour, hour and a half every day in the morning. And to be honest, guys, like I'm normally the only dad there. Like it's your moms or sometimes like grandparents or something.
Wow.
And I just can't imagine like not spending that time with my kids every day now. Like it's just a part of life. So much that I'm going to like move the calendar around to make that happen. But that's something that I feel like it's really not attainable unless you kind of start. You have to start there, because if you're already doing something where you're working like 12 hours a day, it's just really hard to figure out how am I going to, unwind and find that time. So just really, honestly, really lucky to have it play out the way it did. And that's a long-winded way to kind of, I guess, answer your question there.
No, that was good, man. See, are you Canadian, or is your wife Canadian, or are you just
Canadian by association now, right? Born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. We've lived in Newfoundland, where my wife is from. We lived in Calgary, which is the other side of Canada. We've lived in Florida, which has been my personal favorite for obvious reasons, hence the COVID jokes we had earlier. But you can still find some real ones in Canada. I know you guys know our boy Cam Ivan, and honestly, it always makes me chuckle. Like, I swear, like 80% of the population is honestly sick and tired of their political views as a country. So it always warms my heart to meet some critically thinking Canadians, which we know a lot of now.
So is the pendulum swinging back towards conservatism over there in Canada then? See that happen?
I mean, to the Canadian version of it, right? Which I would say in the US is still pretty liberal. But the key is like you just learn to do like little things, like even how we like toss these little jokes out there. You throw the jokes out there, it's like catching fish, right? If someone hooks on it and chuckles along, you're like, okay, cool, like I can open up with this person. And then if not, like, hey, there's still there's a really smart person I know who does not have the same worldviews as me at all, but I would consider them like a true homie. And so you also got to learn like it's not the end all be all either.
Yeah. People still be good.
And I hope, one day my kids are old enough to watch this interview, because I feel like this is the essence of like how I would just want them to think and look at everything, is kind of like what we're diving into here today.
Trevor, what do you got? I don't want to ask you. I don't want to dominate the questions here.
No, that was cool. We're coming up on the 30-minute mark, so that was getting close to it. 25 minutes. So
yeah, I got a couple questions for you guys. Maybe
yeah, sure.
One, would it be cool if I come back and we do a longer format interview?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, do you have and this is just an honest question, do you have a longer format piece that you were like, hey, like I really want to share this? Because we're planning on actually getting a recording studio, and we want to upgrade for guests to have something else, what I'll just describe as, because we have to spend more money on the whole thing. It's kind of a whole process that we're wanting to upgrade guests.
Where are you thinking about where would the studio physically be?
We're probably going to have a rotation wherever we could get enough critical mass of a couple guests. So actually, anyone who's listening to this, if you're in the Los Angeles area and you've got an amazing story you want to share with us, get in contact with us, realestateDadsPodcast.com, or in the Scottsdale area or in the Las Vegas area. If you were somewhere else in the country and you're like, hey, I got an amazing story, just reach out anyway and we'll figure it out. Yeah. If we want to get a critical mass. But to answer your question,
I'll probably be in LA at least a couple times a year now. And I didn't get to dive into this a whole lot recently, but we were talking about Capital Collective. So I've kind of taken a internal shift in roles where it was like heavily sales focused, which is really how I met you guys, to a more of a hybrid between sales and then working directly with our members here at Capital Collective, kind of in that accountability format, like just helping make sure they hit their goals and crush them. So, So because of me stepping into this new role, I'm going to be in LA most likely like multiple times per year. So we gotta line that up for sure.
Well, then, yeah, we could totally get you on a calendar. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I love that you guys are doing the conversational style. I think that honestly, I've always wanted to do shows like this, and I've never, speaking of bandwidth, so far to this point in life, I have not found the bandwidth or the idea, I guess, that fits the long format mold. But I'm happy you guys are doing it, because I'm looking forward to when I come back on.
Speaking of the choir, Adam, I joined Raise Masters, and it's Find Your Investor Avatar. It took me 2 years. I'm just being real. It took me.
It's an ongoing journey too, though.
Ongoing journey, and there's a lot of stuff now where, and I told Hunter this. I talked to him last week, where I went, I wish that I could have had, some of the things that I've done now back when I started, because it really would have just made the time within Raise Masters just so much more productive. And, and we're all at our different, I'll call it growth journeys within our own companies. But even this podcast, we've gotten better, even in the short period we've been doing it. Like, we now track metrics, we're seeing how many impressions we've got from a lot of our videos, which kinds of videos do a little bit better. And those are things that we're, implementing new changes to kind of, get better in the whole process.
Picking up like 2 to 4 subscribers a week lately.
We have 2 to 4 subscribers. Well, we have 2 to 4 subscribers a week, but we've been 2xing our listenership and viewership for the past 4 weeks.
Wow, I'm really happy to hear that for like multiple reasons. Because I've also done a couple shows where it was me and a co-host, and I've seen other people attempt to do co-host podcasts, and that was like the number one thing I was concerned about for you guys, because I was like, obviously the idea is dope, but man, co-hosting from a scheduling perspective can be really it can like basically ruin podcasts for some people. But the fact that you guys have like stuck with it and you're tracking it, well,
Yeah, somehow we pulled it off.
Actually, what's funny is I find the co-hosting thing, I think it's been great. In fact, there's a couple guys who I see do their individual shows. And to be honest, it looks a little lonely to me. And this is something I struggle with in my regular day job, which is just that I miss the big office with lots of people working and hustling in and out every day. And that's really one thing I want to work back to very quickly is environment. But having Trevor to do this with, it's accountability. Someone else who we're sharing workload, both bringing in guests. We're both highly dedicated to making it happen. So, you've got someone who's rowing with you. So Trevor, we can sit next. We text each other on weekends. Happy Father's Day to each other or something like that.
yeah.
But that's really helped actually. So, and some of our growth plans, we both might not need to be on every podcast, but we'll just figure that out,
Yeah, that's it's a continuous growing learning process. But again, the fact that you made it this far and you're already tracking data points and stuff like that, like there's just so many, as you guys have probably seen in Race Masters too. Like I think it's something like 99% of podcasts that get launched don't make it past like 6 episodes, something crazy like that.
Yeah, and I can see why. It's a lot, and we've got some shared responsibilities that both of us are doing, but it requires, call it some
We've hired some help too.
Yeah.
We brought in some VAs, thanks to your encouragement there, Adam.
Oh yeah, I mean, dude, if you guys need anything, I'm down to help. Let me know what you're looking for.
Well, what we'll do is we'll get you back on, and we'll figure out how to get I'll call it more of a plug that you want to get the word out for Raise Masters for Moses General.
General Moses.
General, sorry, I'll make sure I get this right. But for the house music and all of it, because if we can do some more promotion and we get guys who are authority in the industry, because because our listeners, one thing is our listeners are dedicated real estate professionals. So that's one thing.
We want to lean into Raise Masters. I'm down to get some more followers for music, but Raise Masters is that's where the money's at. So
full breath. People might join you for Raise Masters, but you get someone who's got an affinity for house music, and they go, I got to connect with Adam.
Yeah, good point. There could be that one person that I'm like, hell yeah, I'm so happy I met this guy. So,
what's the support? Are you surprised that I've just found out that they're 2 of the top leadership people in Raise Masters are both DJs?
Well, if you've been to Race Fest, right? Like we know how to get down.
Hey, before you go, man, I got to tell you one quick story. Last year, you talked me into putting down a deposit for a Capital Collective.
Yes, that's right.
It's $2,500, and and then I got to go into this. It was at a conference, and then I got to go into this private kind of dinner for the Capital Collective group. So I paid $2,500 for dinner. It was good food, and in that room that I paid to get into was Matt Owens. He was in there too,
yes.
Right? And
yes.
Right now, because of that incident that you talked me into, me and Matt are in the process of raising a fund to take down 18 short-term rentals in St. Louis, Missouri.
That's dope. And I was just talking to Matt literally within the past 60 minutes. So I'm going to tell him you said hi. Oh, I'll tell Hunter and Matt that you guys both said hi. That's awesome, Trevor. Well, if you want more of that, there's more where it came from.
I would appreciate that, man. So,
are you still working with George, or are you going to just?
Yeah. George is involved in it too. Yep.
Well, I say, you can always shift that down payment over to Max, and then you guys can, join.
Yeah.
I've got, I would love to join the Capital Collective. We've, we allocated the Raise Masters dollars to a lot of the marketing we're doing here. And, and I look forward to being back when I can.